Here is Romans chapter 11 verses 19 to 21, NIV, reads. 19. You will say then, branches were broken off so that I could be grafted in. 20. Granted. But they were broken off because of unbelief, and you stand by faith. Do not be arrogant, but tremble. 21. For if God did not spare the natural branches, he will not spare you either. This passage is part of a larger discussion in the book of Romans, where the Apostle Paul addresses the relationship between Jews and Gentiles in the context of God's salvation plan. Here are some key points to consider in understanding and expounding these verses. Context of the olive tree metaphor. In Romans 11, Paul uses the metaphor of an olive tree to describe the spiritual relationship between Israel, Jews, and the Gentiles. The olive tree represents God's covenant people. The natural branches, Jews, were broken off because of unbelief, and the wild olive shoots, Gentiles, were grafted in. Meaning of grafting in Gentiles. The grafting in of the Gentiles signifies God's extension of salvation beyond Israel to include all nations. This was a significant shift in the early Christian understanding, emphasizing that faith in Christ was available to all, not just to those of Jewish descent. Warning against pride. The main admonition in these verses is against arrogance and complacency. Paul warns Gentile believers not to be proud or to look down upon the Jews. The fact that they have been grafted in is not due to their own merit but because of God's grace and mercy. Faith and humility. The emphasis on standing by faith, not by heritage or works, is central to Paul's teaching. Believers, whether Jew or Gentile, are to remain humble, recognizing that their relationship with God is based on faith and not on any personal merit or ethnic background. The severity and kindness of God. These verses also reflect on the character of God who is just and merciful. The warning that God did not spare the natural branches implies that everyone is accountable to God. It serves as a reminder that the privileges of being part of God's people come with the responsibility of faithfulness and humility. Continuity and change in God's plan. This passage illustrates the continuity in God's plan for salvation, which always included faith as the basis for a relationship with Him. The change, however, was in opening this relationship to the Gentiles, expanding the understanding of who constitutes the people of God. In summary, Romans 11:19-21 emphasizes the importance of faith, humility, and the recognition of God's mercy and justice. It cautions against pride and complacency, reminding believers that their standing with God is due to His grace and not their own merits.